town hall, and quite a world we're living in. On Boy, we're getting close to Bastille Day. It's July 12th, so we're 8 days into our 251st year as a nation, and and we're the men's World Cup soccer tournament is almost over, and Donald Trump will disgrace himself, no doubt, in front of his largest audience ever next Sunday. I'm actually talk a little bit about that in a second and the whole politics of that and how it resonates with people around the world and what it means to collect so much of humanity together. I'm going to also refer back to the article that I only mentioned briefly that I published last week. It's had a lot of people contact me about it and do some interviews around it. It was called Common Sense 2026, but in it, I make the argument as to why pretty much we're going to have democracy in the country. We're going to have, redistribution of wealth and power back to the people. And we'll have democracy in the country then. Or if we don't have that redistribution of power and wealth back to the people and away from its concentration in a few people's hands, we won't have a democracy in the country. And then I talk about the Democratic Party and the Democratic Party as a viable vehicle for those politics in the 21st century, not in the 1930s and 40s. We have a great show actually today, and we're going to hear it later from our own William Walter, who was in Wisconsin, and he was at a demonstration around again a person murdered by ICE in Wisconsin, and it's not something that's getting as much focus as happened with the two deaths in Minnesota, but it's something that we all need to be aware of. We need to be cognizant of the fact that, the Trump administration changed a little bit of tone when Kristi Noem left, but the violation of human rights across this country by ICE is ongoing. And we need to be cognizant and as vigilant as ever about it. And William will report on that. We'll also be joined in the second hour by one of our endorsed congressional candidates from Michigan's 8th district. Now, Michigan, like Missouri, is coming up on August 4th. Probably sprinkled in across the town hall today, we're going to keep mentioning that the next primary with the PDA endorsed candidate is Kai Newkirk in Arizona, because we will also have another endorsed candidate in the great state of Arizona, and that is Elizabeth Lee. She is running in a seat which is held by a Republican, and that's Arizona's 5th district, and she'll be joining us in about 10 to 12 minutes. So I'm going to toss to Mike Fox for our PDA to-dos in a few minutes. But as I hinted, I suppose my so obviously we're in a very dynamic situation around the Democratic Party with the primary season. I'm very proud of progressives and over our movement to have stepped up the degree to which we have and made clear that there's a distinction. There's a significant distinction between the moderate wing of the party and the progressive wing of the party. And of course, there's a spectrum. And so there's gray area where certain people fall in more to the progressive side, more to the moderate side. But I definitely believe that in a country as rich as ours, as powerful as ours, in as much of a crisis as it's in right now, that we need to make clear that the progressive policies across the board are those that, hey, can you hear me better now, Mike Fox?
Yes.
It's good.
It sounds fine.
Good. The across the board are better for the country, but in particular, look, there are so many essential issues, of course, on civil rights, combating the structural racism in society, horrible foreign policy, the United States, which is, of course, at a fever pitch of horribleness right now. And so many things, but for the general population, it is the difficulty of leading a prosperous and comfortable life in the United States. The economy is very, very uneven and very erratic under Trump as the wealthy get ever more wealthy. I mean, the GDP growth in the country, it's hard to get a clear line on it, but it's somewhere like 1.5%, 2%. Some months it seems like it's going higher, other months it's dragging lower. Certainly, without the data center buildouts, it probably would be in the negative range. And the data center buildouts, like so much in our country, are going to are lining the pockets of the wealthy, whose rate of wealth is growing to 20% a year. That's 2%, 1% for the general economy, 20% for the wealthy. We have a real problem on our hands when we have this oligarchic administration backed by the wealthiest people in the country who are empowering the authoritarian president. And we need to defeat them in November. As we move through the primaries, we're getting closer to that time where we're going to have unity across the Democratic Party, but we're still inside the primary season. And electing progressives, as we've had some incredible victories, is really going to send a marker to the people in the United States that we, and not any kind of populist bloviating from the right wing, are the people who are advocating for the welfare of the average person. We have proven policies that work across the world in other countries and have worked here before. And when they still are existing here, they've been weakened, and we need to go back and strengthen those. And of course, there are new 21st century strategies to complement those older strategies. But we have a really, really solid set of programs, and we can move towards those. And that was really the heart of what I wrote and framed it in terms of Thomas Paine, because Paine really was somebody who, at the same time as he spoke about the dangers of government that libertarians often quote a few lines of his, he basically was for the creation before it existed of what come to be called a welfare state or a social democratic state. Beyond being, very strongly anti-racist, a feminist actually, which is he was an associate of Mary Wollstonecraft back in England, a part of that circle of people as he came over from England. And he also was opposed to the treatment of the indigenous people very strongly here in the United States. I mean, he wasn't perfect, of course, but the idea that he was a tiny, small government kind of guy, because he has the lines about the governments only exist to because humans misbehave or something along those lines in some of his quotes. That's really an overstatement of where Paine came down. So going all the way back to Paine, and around the 250th birthday, of course, I framed it around Paine. But we have an opportunity still to reclaim the revolutionary tradition in this country, to ameliorate, the parts of the economy that are clearly capitalistic, and try to make sure that wealth is distributed out to people through the democratic process to achieve that, which, by the way, I think actually brings about a more vibrant market capitalism because more people can pursue entrepreneurship than is currently the case. Which is not to give up on socialism for those of us who are socialists, but that's where we are politically right now. And the amelioration of capitalism that happened in the Keynesian years was they were the richest countries the world has ever seen. And we have to go back to those strategies, apply them to the 21st century. And then I talk about the Democratic Party. So the thing is done really well. I'm going to put the link into the chat again for people to check it out. In many respects, it was drawn off of a policy paper that was directly related to PDA that I gave in December. So, share it with friends, and, send me your thoughts about how you think it. I just put it in the chat. I'll do that again because something else knocked it out right away. Oh, what just happened? Boom. There we go. I'll put it in the chat again. And send me your thoughts at Alan. Seems to keep getting knocked out there from the chat stream, but it's up there. Opinion, common sense in 2026. No more retreat. Look, the other thing I wanted to mention is I came up with this crazy idea that I've shared with people that people really like. So I might lose a little time to this over the next week, and maybe really would kick into gear around Wednesday. I came up with this idea that Donald Trump in the World Cup really disgraced himself. He does that all the time in so many ways, in front of the whole world by interfering with the competition and demanding that a red card against a U.S. player be revoked so the player could play the next game. And he did that, and he intervened, and the corrupt head of FIFA granted the reprieve, irregardless of whether the red card was merited. Nothing like that has ever happened so overtly in the history of the tournament, which is a pretty corrupt tournament. They put on a great sports spectacle, but they line their pockets with all the money from it traditionally, and other things are quite horrible about it. And they cozy up to oligarchs and authoritarians around the world and they are the leading organization for what's called sports washing, cleaning up the reputation of terrible governments through putting on a spectacle. And that's going on with Trump, or Trump's trying to, have that work for him. Well, the public was not happy with him, and all around the world, people were appalled at it. They thought it was a complete corruption of the tournament. It's led to a lot of conspiracy theories about the refereeing in other games. And once that happens, it throws so much into question about whether the referees are gaming the competition to get the outcome that they want. Particularly now, that's revolving around the idea that they trying to keep Lionel Messi's Team Argentina in the tournament because it'll draw higher ratings, et cetera, because they seem to have been the beneficiaries of now at least the past two games of decisions. But I'm not going to buy into those conspiracy theories. I think what Trump did was horrible. So the idea was to try to print up 80,000 red cards and get them to the people who are going to the Meadowlands final on next Sunday. And when Trump appears on center stage at the event to give out the trophy, as he did at a soccer event last year with a much smaller global audience, but nonetheless made a total fool of himself. He's going to certainly do the same again. He's going to take center stage. He's going to try to continually put himself in front of the team that has just won the biggest sporting event that humanity follows. And what we will try to do is see if we can print up 80,000 red cards and get them to the people in the Meadowlands. I mean, it's very wishful thinking, and it's also probably difficult because the people who are able to afford to go to that game, maybe they just don't share our pro-working class politics. But as an idea and getting it out there on social media, and I'll try to brand it at the PDA if we can get consensus from the staff on that, I can do that. Certainly will be for a project I worked on called the People's Game. So maybe we'll have a little imprint of that on the red cards that we print up. But Donald Trump needs a red card. He needs a red card from being the president of the United States. And he's got to get the hell out of the World Cup soccer tournament. So that's my fun little idea for next Sunday to politicize, or rather continue to politicize, because it's politicized by people like Trump, World Cup soccer tournament, where this great working class sport of soccer is corrupted by the big money, powerful people in the world to make it into something that just boosts their power and lines their pockets. Well, I think people need to take that back. Okay, that's enough for me for this week. Donna Smith's not going to be able to join us this week, but props to Donna wherever she is. Mike Fox, why don't you tell us our PDA to-dos for the week? And yeah, take it away.
Excellent. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Dog. All right. First and foremost, gang, as always, every Sunday, 4 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock Pacific, we're here to do what? Revel in the fact that you're surrounded by people who get it, right? This is a team building, solidarity based space. And we need that sort of thing right now, gang. We readily recognize that we have uphill battles in many regards. However, there is no question that we can overcome all the challenges. What's going to be required, excuse me, got half a Cleveland in my throat here. What it's going to require is solidarity and a lot of work between now and any given election. But if we show that solidarity with each other, if we become the wind in each other's sails, there's no question we can make this happen, gang. We just gotta buckle down and do it. So here is where we come together, build the team solidarity that is so vital in this process, and get to work. So, primary to do number one is take notes here. We're going to be talking about a lot of different ways you can get involved. Most importantly, the rapidly approaching primaries on the 21st and then the 5th. Got a lot of candidates. Elizabeth's one of them. She's going to be talking here in a minute. And in the chat, I've been seeing it already. Phone bankers, keep it up. If you're a phone banker, type in the chat that you do it. We already had Catherine swing by from California, who swung by just to get some love out of the space, and she's off to the phone bank. So she's working right now. All right. So let's pile on, show solidarity with that kind of energy. Catherine's sitting in California making calls for somebody in Arizona. National solidarity here, gang. That's how we make this happen. So the two primary time and treasure asks are going to be number one, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank, phone bank. So phone bankers, pile on the chat in there. Let people know you're doing it. Ask folks to help, to show solidarity. We need a minimum of 10 new phone bankers signing up today in this program, okay? So don't wait. Hit the link, pdamerica.org/volunteer. All we're looking for is 1 hour. If you can do more than that, please do. But all we're looking for is an hour. It's a piece of cake, okay? So it's pdamerica.org/volunteer. If we talk to enough voters, we win. Full stop. Humans talking to humans beats big money. It just does. But the caveat being, they got to be getting talked to. That's on us. We can't outspend them, but we can outwork them. That is the genius of the formula. Our numbers not only mean something in votes, but in bandwidth, getting other people out to vote. It's how we win. If we don't have it, we don't win. Period. Full stop. Okay. So let's nail that. pdamerica.org/volunteer. From a treasure standpoint, we have a goal today of just solidarity. That's all we're looking for, gang. If you can throw $1 in, that's fine, nifty. If you can do more than that, great. Please do. But the key for all of our Zooms is that solidarity. You know that if you do something, another teammate is going to be piling on with you. Okay, so let's make that happen. And if you can do it monthly, that is the perfect case scenario, because a couple of reasons. Number one, it helps us budget easier if we know what money is coming in a given month, right? Number two, it prevents me from constantly asking you for money. Candidly, if you want to shut me up on the, hey, make a donation today, shut me up by us getting to enough monthly donors for us to keep the ship afloat. And let me underline, the vast majority of our work at PDA is done by volunteer labor. And we take great pride in that here. It's just spiritually, culturally right. Our model is all about everyday citizens taking their civic responsibility seriously. And if we can get enough people doing that, then we kind of put ourselves here at PDA out of a job. I mean, that would be the perfect thing if we just had everybody in our country knowing that, number one, they got to vote. Number two, they got to get 3 of their friends to. Boom, done deal. We would have everything that we're looking for. We'd have single payer health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right now, if every human being who believes that healthcare is a human right did just that, vote and get 3 of their friends to do it, done. We'd have everything. We'd have super majorities in every district in the country. So that's our goal, to get people to that. They aren't there yet. So we got to keep working. So in any event, that's the volunteer thing. The as far as the treasure is concerned, solidarity. That's what we're looking for, okay? And our goal of 10 new sustainers today. I'll be back at the top of the hour to figure out where we're at on our goals. Let's make it happen. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you. The other day, I was honored to MC a fundraiser in Los Angeles for a candidate for Congress in Arizona, Kai Newkirk, who's incredible. And we are, of course, thrilled that Adelita Grijalva won her seat in Arizona, that we were very active in supporting in the special election. Of course, we endorsed her candidacy again now. And we are also thrilled to introduce another candidate that we are endorsing for the U.S. House of Representatives in the state of Arizona. And to do that is one of our Arizona state coordinators, our national chapter coordinator. We have our chapter leaders meeting tomorrow at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. I don't know, soccer games tomorrow, folks, so we'll all see you there. We start again on Tuesday and Wednesday. Dan O'Neill, take it away. You'll be introducing PDA endorsed candidate Elizabeth Lee. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you so much, Alan, and thank everybody for being on the call. Very excited today to introduce my friend Elizabeth Lee, who lives 2 miles from my house. Jesus, can you believe that? In Congressional District 5 here in kind of, if for people who don't know, Congressional District 5 is in the east of Phoenix and the towns of Gilbert, parts of Mesa, Casa Grande, Apache Junction, and well, Elizabeth would know more than I would. But anyway,
No
all of
Casa
those,
Grande. No, we're not Casa Grande.
not Casa Grande, okay, but it's certainly most of Gilbert and parts of Mesa. Look, folks, the hardest working person I know in Arizona, the hardest working candidate, and she's a nurse, single payer, Medicare for all nurse. Uh, Elizabeth, I'm going to just let you take it from here. How are we going to win this primary on in 8 days? I think it is, right?
Eight
Something like that.
days.
Yep,
Well,
on the 21st. How are we going to win that? And then maybe a little bit later, how are we going to beat this crazy sheriff? And a lot of people on this call don't understand how crazy he is, but you can really tell us. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Elizabeth Lee, Congressional District 5, PDA endorsed. Go ahead,
thank
Elizabeth.
you, Dan. Thanks so much. And those of you joining the call, thanks for spending some of your day here, spending time here. I am in the car in between campuses, so forgive me for the background AC noise, but it's so amazing to have PDA's endorsement both from the local level and the national level, because you guys, we have done something with this campaign that a year ago people said was not possible in this district. So like Dan said, CD5, it's about an R plus 8 to 10, and the area is about 2/3 in Maricopa County. Maricopa County is the second most populous county in the entire United States, second to LA. And then the other third of it is in Pinal County. Pinal County has registered 100,000 new voters in the last year, and they are registering 1.3 or 1.4 Dems to every single Republican. So we are a district that is ready, that was ready when we got to it to till the soil. And so I say all the time, this campaign was never about getting people to believe in me. I used my platform to get the people of CD5 to believe in each other again, because I got so tired of being told it's such a red district, you'll never win, you have no chance, whatever the things were. So we really did. We went out and did something that's completely radical in today's politics. And that was, instead of talking at people, we started talking with them. And we talked with them in places where they already felt safe, at their doors, on their front porches, in coffee shops, in union halls, in their neighborhood meetings. Like, we went to where people were, and then we asked them, what keeps you up at night? And that was the framework that built what you see today as our platform, because our platform is not 100% pulled out of anyone's playbook. It's not 100% PDA or DSA or any S. It is what CD5 needs, because we've spent the time in the places where the people are, and people have told us their healthcare costs are completely out of control, and they see that the system is broken. We can't even just go back to like the broken thing we had. People are demanding something better. People are demanding that their children be able to afford a house earlier than age 40. People are screaming at the top of their lungs that our public schools are being, billions of dollars is being siphoned out of our public schools. These are the things that, people have told us at their doors. They're exhausted, and many people don't even know if their government is capable of solving their problems. Like, we've really got a lot of work to do. But I came to folks to say, I came to folks to say, like, let's not try to go back and navigate the broken system. Let's fix it, right? Because everybody got very comfortable with like this broken system that they sort of started navigating, when at the end of the day, you can proudly wave your blueprint of your house around, but if there's a flood, that blueprint is not going to keep the rain out. And I think that part of what has been so successful about this campaign in CD5 is that I have approached it in the manner that a nurse approaches a problem. We don't come to the problem and say, yes, I know just what the problem is before we receive any information. So we've stepped back, we've assessed, we've looked at CD5, and we've found the cracks. And because of that, we have turned what could be seen as a campaign into an actual community organization. Our campaign has served as a community organization because we've been doing a lot of work well outside of January 20th next year when I hopefully get sworn in, right? People have problems today that they need solved today, and they want to be able to look at their candidate and go, yes, I could see that person getting it done, right? I've seen this as an audition all along. Let me show you what you get when you put an actual working person in a position of power. And this election, Dan?
No, I just wanted to interrupt you briefly.
Yes.
May I interrupt you?
Absolutely.
You have endorsements recently from Attorney General Chris Mays. What a big endorsement. Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So how important are those two endorsements, for example? And, endorsements are not everything, but those two are huge here, I think, in Arizona. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, I would never want to just rest on my endorsements, but I do think that the type of endorsements that we have received just speaks volumes about the broad coalition that we've built. Because not only have we gotten progressive Congresswoman Adelita Grijalva, but we've also got the former elected Republican commissioner in now Democratic A.G. Mays, all the way over to progressive state Senator Annalise Ortiz, and every pro-democracy, pro-Palestine, pro-healthcare, just everything in the middle, because it's all been, again, it's been about inspiring people to believe in each other again, inspiring people to say, you know what, no, this is not just the way it is. We're going to step in and we're going to do what needs to be done. And in my mind, it's not been about it's been about creating a movement, because a campaign comes and goes. But if you create real connective tissue between the neighborhoods and Congress, I think people realize that they're a lot more powerful than they used to be. And that is what's brought labor leaders and healthcare leaders and Chris Mays and Congresswoman Grijalva. This brought a lot of endorsements to the table, because I also can confidently say, when people say, oh, Elizabeth, come on, can we really win CD5? Yes. Stop saying that.
So tell us, again, people don't read the Arizona Republic. Tell us how.
Yes. So things for the primary look fantastic.
After you win the primary next Tuesday.
Yes.
Yep.
After we win the primary Tuesday.
How are you going to take on the MAGA Donald Trump endorsed former sheriff of Pinell County, Mark Lamb? And where's Mark Lamb right now? He's in Tennessee, right?
Oh, we don't know. Yeah. I mean, well, listen, you bring up a great, I'm glad you brought us to that point. Once we win the primary in 8 days, we feel very confident about that. We've done the work here. The pivot is to pivot directly to our independents and our left-leaning Republicans who are not MAGA, but they're still Republicans. And we've spent a lot of time knocking over, I think, close to 15,000 doors to understand where those pockets of people are. And we've been building support all along the way, where people are like, oh, I would vote for you if I was a Democrat. I'll vote for you in the general. Like, we're really connecting at the doors that this is about so much more than left or right. This is about policy. This is about values. And at any door, if I can get somebody to agree with me, not to share each other's party till the end of the conversation, I almost lock 9 out of 10 people. And like, you know what, you're right, you could make a change. But we really, 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 once we win the primary, we're going to need to do a number of things. We're going to need to continue working as hard as we have been working, because this campaign has done an incredible amount of work that no amount of money can do. And that is get people who really see the value in our campaign and see who I am as a leader and take that excitement to the doors. Now, we just now actually started paying canvassers like a week ago, and they were people that were already volunteering for us. So we have built a really, really steady foundation, and we've also built a lot of inroads with community leaders outside just the Dem, like in the circle type of leaders. But we've had, Republican people running for different races saying, you know what, you guys really have a chance at this, because people are yes, Mark Lamb has name recognition here in this state, but not good.
He's in trouble right now.
He's in huge trouble right now. So he's embroiled in scandal because he is an upstanding member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He is running a campaign whose slogan is faith, family, freedom. And about a month or so ago, news reports broke that he and his wife not only are swingers, which is fine, that is their right to do what they want to do, but Mark Lamb has been shown time and time again to use his power and authority to intimidate women out of reporting sexual misconduct. So now, when you take that, and now I am a court-mandated, state-mandated reporter. I am a nurse I don't have trash in the bin that people are going to pull out and yeah, I mean, there is things, but Mark Lamb, this was like the scandal that he did not need, because I think Mark Lamb might just be a gift to CD5 in that there is a very small group of people that like adore him. Everybody outside of that is kind of looking at this going, you know what, I don't know. Part of the key to this is the Mormon Church. So I am a former Republican. I was a Republican because my church said you cannot be a Christian and vote Democrat. That thought process is all over this district. People whose faith tell them one thing, but whose eyes are telling them something different. And one of those groups is the Mormon women. And the Mormon women in this district are very upset right now, primarily at ICE, because they're seeing that as a hit on the Constitution. The Mormon Church believes that the Constitution was divinely inspired, and they also believe in divinely inspired agency. And so what's going on with ICE has really, really, really given us the ability to turn people's eyes to what's really happening. And so we know if we're going to win, we're going to need 90% of the Democrats, 60% independents, and 10% of Republicans. 10% of Republicans is not that many, but that's the math we need to win.
So Elizabeth, excuse me for one more time. Maybe William Walter has some questions for you. And if anybody else might have questions, if this is appropriate now to take some questions. Is it okay? Yeah, William.
Of course.
You have.
I can ask some questions, of course. Hi, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being here. As a younger candidate yourself, and of course, as the token young guy here, I have to ask, because it's my job to ask it here. How has your youth impacted your ability to campaign? What benefits are you seeing, and what's a unique perspective that you think your age allows you to see, or at least allows you to relate to with voters that your opponents or even more established Democrats, let's say, might not be able to understand or might not be properly reading with the voting public?
That's such a great question, William. I'm a millennial, and I'm an elder millennial. So I have this weird, I grew up in a completely analog environment. And then when I was in high school, everything turned to digital. And so millennials, I think we have a unique perspective of kind of the link between Gen Z and those older to us. Like we've been able to, I feel like millennials have those of us who've really stepped up have been able to somehow bridge that gap, especially if we're willing to mind the gap. Because I don't pretend like I understand either Gen Z or those older than me, but I think that, being in somewhere in the middle allows me to very easily reach a hand out, and also to link the two generations together, because there's so much, like when I was Gen Zers ages, like when I was in my teens, I loved the opportunity to interface with older folks because I felt like it gave me the ability to learn new things. And so I really think I've been able to use my age as a way to bring groups together. I mean, we have volunteers as young as 8 and as old as I won't out their age, but the person it's there, I think over 80. He's on this call, but I don't want to out him.
Over
But
80. You're talking about me?
no, I'm not talking about you, Dan O'Neill. I'm talking about someone who's muted. They don't have the ability to say, but no, but so I think I've been able to use my like youth seems weird, but I've really I've lived through a lot of the things that have led us to this point. Like a lot of lies our government told us. I fell for. I have student loans. Like a lot of the things that I grew up believing as a poor kid from Ohio, I now understand. I'm at least old enough to have seen some things, but still young enough to be like, you know what, let's be creative. Let's be open-minded. Let's not just do things because that's the way we've always done them. So that's how I answer that.
So Elizabeth, I'm going to turn it over to William in a second, and he can kind of navigate the questions. We have several questions.
Yeah.
It's like 4 or 5 people, and be the time person because we have a certain amount of time. But I wanted to ask you the question because William just came off a demonstration literally minutes ago about in his area. Was it in Milwaukee, William?
It was in Milwaukee, yes.
In Milwaukee for in support of Lorenzo Araujo, who was murdered in Houston. We know, all of us know about that by ICE. And I saw that you were at a protest in Phoenix just a couple of days ago around the same issue. And I wanted to ask the question, how important is it to show up in support of the community that is the most under attack and marginalized communities and organizations and issues? I know you have, again, have a reputation of being there with people and the various struggles here in the Phoenix area. So with that question, and then we'll go to the stack, okay?
Yeah, no, I mean, to answer that question, that's literally the job, is to show up and into all the spaces where people need you. And what's been going on in ICE detention started as horror at everyone else, like everyone else had, but I was losing sleep at night. I felt like I had to do something more. That's what led me to becoming like a court monitor and doing patient advocacy for a gentleman who's been stuck in Florence since January. Today is his birthday. He turns 33 today in ICE custody. He has not seen his family in 6 months. And if we are not their voice, who is? No one. He lives in Maine. He has 2 special needs children, and they do not have the financial means to be here. So it is critical that we show up in spaces, in places where people's voices are not being heard. Like that is the literal basement requirement for representatives. And we have seen a lot of our representatives stand up to ICE, but we need to see a whole lot more because what is happening inside these facilities is horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
William, any comments on that?
Yeah, so, I was incredibly excited. First of all, I agree with everything that was just said, but to take a bit of it's hard to do in a situation like this, but a little bit of a positive spin is how much the communities are coming out in support of one another. So this was a community, a primarily Latino community, and we were marching through the streets. We had our signs, we were chanting and everything, making sure everyone was aware we were there. People were running out of their homes. Children were coming out, high-fiving us as we were walking past, chanting with us, taking pictures and videos and cheering. Cars were, people that were parked on their cars on the side of the road, were high-fiving us as we walked past. Like, it does feel like a moment kind of where collectively millions and millions of people are recognizing that the fight has never been around the cultural lines that often Republicans like to create. The fight has been around the haves versus the have-nots, and the haves is a infinitesimally small percentage of the total population. These handful of billionaires with more wealth than entire nations, versus the rest of us as they continue to mass exploit the working class at any and every opportunity they have available. And a lot of us are recognizing that my neighbors and these people who live in my communities, the kids that play Little League baseball with my children, that attend schools with my nieces and nephews, like these are our family and friends and community. These are the people we should be focusing on. These are the people we should be caring about. It doesn't matter what our ideological beliefs are, or what the color of our skin is, what religion we support. None of that matters. What matters is protecting your community and keeping each other all safe, and dividing resources in a just and equitable manner in the wealthiest nation in the history of our species.
There you go. William, do you want to be the person in charge of calling
Sure,
on people?
I can take on the stack. What is
Okay.
our time here, Elizabeth? What do you have a hard out?
Well, we should, top of the hour. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Sure. So to get back to the question that I asked and your answer, that the bridge idea, because I do see that as well, particularly with older millennials. Younger millennials do have. I'm a younger millennial, and I definitely see a lot more of Gen Z in myself and my friends and like the people that I spend time with and connect with, primarily on the lower end of that. But I do have a lot of friends that are older millennials that say the exact same thing, that they can relate to the younger gens, but they might see themselves more as the Gen Xers, just based on what was on TV when you grew up, what shows you were watching, the music you were listening to, all these kind of like still culturally relevant topics. That said, and I've made this joke to Alan before, when we're in DC and talking to a lot of with respect to my older friends on this call, dinosaurs that are in office, they still see me as a child. You're in your early 30s, you're a baby, you're just a toddler, you were just born yesterday. Oh, you're so adorable and naive, and you'll learn it eventually. But then when I'm organizing with high school or college-age students, or even, recently graduated early 20s type organizers who are just starting to get their foot in the door, I'm already seen as unk, because once you hit 30, it's over. You can't trust anybody over 30 anymore. So
Right.
It's also interesting to be in that position, balancing having a little bit of credibility with the youngins, the youths, because, you do still have a lot of experiences that they recognize that they are going through, whether it's student loans or any of the other myriad issues you talked about. But you have grown a little bit beyond, you have a little real world experience enough to still be the adult in the room and say, well, this is how these experiences have impacted my life. This is how I've grown from this. And this is how I want to try to, use my perspective to advance circumstances and situations for all of my fellow young people in a nation that's frankly desperate for more youth voices in politics. I'll reference a certain event that happened late last night and was announced at 1 a.m. via their personal Twitter account that I won't, directly name, but it's not the first time, as a sitting senator in Kentucky's health is unknown as well, that a lot of these officials, they're staying in office quite literally until they die. They're so unwilling to cede power to the next generation of leaders that they will happily go to the grave in these positions, supported and supplemented, because of course they're not doing this decision is not made alone. A lot of their staffers, donors, what's that movie from before my time, Weekend at Bernie's type deal, where you're literally keeping these people afloat because their existence provides your paycheck. And it gives you power and supplements that role. It's cyclical, I think, a lot of these problems.
So Elizabeth has to, Walter, sorry to interrupt. Elizabeth has to get back and knock on doors. So
we're gonna jump into the stack. So please keep your questions to about 60 seconds if possible. We're gonna go by the order that I see your hands on the screen. You will be asked to unmute. And first I see Mila. Mila, you have been asked to unmute and you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. I'll try to be quick here. Elizabeth, nice to meet you. I know that Palo Verde nuclear power plant isn't in your district, but it evaporates 27,000 gallons of water every minute of every day, and that water comes from your district from all over Arizona. On your website, you say that you are in favor of clean energy development, and I wonder if you categorize nuclear power as clean, and what is your position on the Palo Verde nuclear power plant?
That is such a great question. And Mila, I will always be the first person to say, I'm never going to shine you on. I do not have a deep understanding of nuclear power. I see solar and hydropower as being clean energy. I think that how we use or don't use nuclear energy we should bring in nuclear scientists and environmental scientists and people like that to help us understand, like, that's part of the problem is we have people making decisions on stuff like that that are like, yeah, you know what, I think X, Y, and Z. And I don't know the answer to that question. And I think that first and foremost, that anything that is at the expense of our health or our future resources, we can't gamble things that secure our future. That's clean air, clean water, and enough access to renewable resources. So that's my best answer while saying I don't really, I would want to talk to folks that are really skilled in that to help me understand the details.
Okay.
Thank you, Elizabeth. For our next question, I see Richard Grimm. Richard, you've been asked to unmute and you have the floor.
My question is, you're trying to put people in take and not have people with disabilities live in apartments and So are you for people with disabilities?
Well, as a disabled American myself, I will do absolutely everything in my power to protect people with disabilities. I so disagree with the institutionalization of folks with disabilities. Our disabled Americans are part of what makes the fabric of our communities beautiful. And I will do everything under the sun to fight for that. Like I said, I have some disabilities myself that were written off for a very long time, and I know what that's like to be unseen and unheard. And so my role as representative will be, I deeply believe that we have to fund the IDEA program that we've owed the disabled people of our nation for forever and ever. Like, that is a moral obligation that we have. But moving forward, our society should seek to see the color that disabled Americans bring to our fabric and find ways for us all to be contributing members of society, whatever that looks like, So thank you for hopping on this call, and thank you for that question, because we really, really, really have got to get more disabled voices at the table.
Thank you so much. And next question, I see Michael. Michael, you have been asked to unmute and you have the floor.
Thank you, Walt. Thank you, William. Elizabeth, did not actually know what people's questions were going to be, but this actually really follows nicely, I think, with that question of disability, because I actually am as well, use a wheelchair. I wanted to talk a little bit to you about the way you see things like long-term services and supports playing in a Medicare for all system. When we think about Medicare in general, I don't think about the things that we in the disability community necessarily need. So I wanted to figure out what you were thinking about in your framework of what Medicare for all would need to look like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we understand what the standard of care, like, as somebody with a clinical background as a nurse, we understand what the standard of care is for various disabilities. And so we shouldn't act surprised or make people with those disabilities jump through hoops to get access to what they need. I'll give you an example. The Arizona State Legislature thinks it's a great idea for people with disabilities to have to recertify their disability every 6 months. If you have cystic fibrosis or cerebral palsy or any number of other disabilities, those things do not disappear every 6 months. There's absolutely no reason every 6 months that we would ask people to jump through those hoops. So I think as a part of Medicare for all, we have to come up with what is the standard of care for people who fit various clinical diagnoses that doesn't ask them to do. That's such a waste on the system anyway. It's a waste. It's a hit to that person. Like, for example, me, as somebody with a certain disability that's genetic, it's not going to go away. Why are we putting people through that? So Medicare for all will have to address those things. And I think Medicare for all would be a system where that would be the best disabled Americans have probably ever had it. Because if you are a disabled American in this country, chances are you had to fight tooth and nail to get on disability and are having to fight tooth and nail to stay on disability. And that is something that I would, I would die on that hill, that we are not going to make people jump through, unnecessary hoops. And that would be the type of waste in the medical system that Medicare for All doesn't need. So great time to rip that Band-Aid off.
Wonderful question. We have 2 more questions on the stack. I see Carly and Tyler. We're going to go Carly first, and then we'll go to Tyler before wrapping up. Carly, you have been asked to unmute, and you have the floor.
Hi, hi, Elizabeth. I'm in. Since the disability question has already been asked, let me ask you again. In light of the fact that Lindsey Graham is one less Nazi for us to worry about, and Mitch McConnell has been speculated to be brain dead, don't you think this reinforces the case of age and health restrictions for age restrictions for our representatives?
Yes. Honestly, I'm so glad you asked this, because it is an absolute joke that we have potentially 2 dead senators inside of a week. Like, that is not funny. That is not how we should be governing. We have the youngest and best and brightest minds. Like, there is no reason. So I deeply believe that Congress has to pass, age and health, some type of basement for our members of Congress. I think term limits helps that. I've signed a term limits pledge. I do not think that people should be career congressmen, but yeah, I think we need to relook at what the qualifications are for the different roles up into and including president. Because as a nurse, I can't give you a Tylenol as a felon, but I can be the president. Let's sit with that one. Sit with that one.
And we're going to, hang on. I just lost my Zoom screen. There we go. With the final question, we have Tyler next on stack. Tyler, you have been asked to unmute, and you have the floor.
Yeah, my question concerns the war in Gaza, Iran and Lebanon, and how you feel about that.
I feel heartbroken, just like probably all of you, because this is an illegal war, for one, and for two, it's just another war in the Middle East that America has gotten involved in at everyone else's expense. To see what has happened in Gaza is an unbelievable. It's hard to believe that something like that has happened in real time, and also this genocide has woken a lot of people up to where the United States sends their dollars and where their priorities are. And so I'm fully and completely against all the genocides happening all over the world at the expense of the United States. And we have got to, just like my family budget, I have to budget the things that matter to my family. We have got to get our money out of all of these awful places where it's doing all of these awful things. But first and foremost, Iran is an illegal war. And I don't know where every Democratic member of Congress is. And guess what? There's not enough senators to make anything pass anymore now with Mitch and Lindsey out. So why this Congress isn't doing something right this second to put an end to that, I don't understand it, but I think that if we're ever even going to address, and this is a little bit of a stretch, but if we're ever even going to address the immigration issues in our country, we have to stop making everybody else's lives so miserable that they need to come here. And that's maybe a hot take, but at the end of the day, I think so many, myself and so many people are just over the clause that Israel has inside of our government. And he needs to be impeached and removed so that we can put a stop to some of this, because it is horrible.
I think Alan.
Walter had his hand up. One more thing, and then we'll jump to Alan. I think that's a great point as well, Elizabeth, that global destabilization that has been primarily driven by American military intervention has caused much of the migration that we have seen over the past 5 decades. There's a reason that so many people across the planet are in dangerous, untenable situations that they desperately want to get their family out of. And if you go back far enough, a lot of those issues were probably either started or made significantly worse by the United States. So,
Yep.
Alan, if I may pass it back to you. Thank you so
Well,
much, Elizabeth. Great conversation, and I want to give the floor to Mr. Alan Minsky.
oh no, and please come back and wrap up the hour, and then I'll take over at the after Mike Fox's to-dos at the top of the hour, and introduce our next guest. But for Elizabeth, and thank you, William. Great questions from you and from everyone. I love the way you framed the way that you came up with your platform, going out and talking to the people of Arizona. And I was just looking at your platform, and a couple things. The fully funding public education. Sometimes we hear about right wingers. This has been a district that the Republicans have won elections in. How broad is the support for that? I imagine it's very broad, but how broad? And also, you talked about being pro-family. Of course, this has been time immemorial, this Republican talking point. And given what the other policy positions you have, how have you communicated being pro-family and expressing that you feel what you want to see happen in public policy is what a real pro-family position looks like?
Yeah, no, it was a very deliberate choice, and so we are very clear about pro-family, and that is whatever family means to you. I will tell you what family means to you, and you won't tell me what family means to me. But I am here to fight for and support what family means to you. Period. End of story. In the beginning, some people were like, oh my gosh, you must be a closet Republican. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I just actually think that I'm tired of the Republicans owning words like family and things like the flag and things like the cross for Christians who believe it. Like, stop taking our stuff.
Yeah, what do you think of Tallarico and his push for a progressive view of Christianity?
I think it's the most actually Christian view that we've actually seen as a former Christian, or well, I don't, whatever. As somebody who did a lot of church as a person, I think that he has a more fair and more realistic take on what at least my take was on the Bible. And I think that he's a potentially interesting choice for Texas because he speaks their language. So
there we go. Well, thank you. And William, back to you just to wrap up, and then and your final thoughts with Elizabeth, and I'll pick up in a few minutes. Man, thank you, William.
Oh, I mean, I think we nailed my final thoughts. I really wanted to focus on the youth aspect in particular, but I'm glad we were able to jump into the conversation around, America's role in a lot of the problems that we're seeing across the globe, and how a lot of those problems then come back to America in the future. And of course, if you were to present that to any number of frustrated American citizens and explain to them step by step how we got to this point, it's an unfortunate conversation that probably should have happened when they were in school, at least.
It is. But look at how many Americans disavow AIPAC. That number has shifted drastically in the last 12 months. And that is a bellwether for what we've seen up till now and what we have going into November. People are waking up, and it is our job to make sure that they do, that they know, that they're aware. That's why everything all of you are doing matters. Every call, every text, everything, because when they get the information, they do wake up, some of them.
Yeah, I think that the takeaway is that public education doesn't have a timeline. You can be in first grade, you can be in 11th grade, you can be 110 years old at that point. Always be learning, always be growing. Continue to try to inform the people that you care about, your friends, your family, your neighbors. You are a trusted source to them in a way that I can't be, or that some random face on their television can't be. So make sure that we're getting out there, sharing the information, and trying to make everybody as informed as they possibly can be, because that's a fundamental aspect of a healthy, sustainable democracy.
So William, Dan here, Elizabeth. William, first, thank you so much for helping out on this. Elizabeth, thank you for being here in this space with us, with Progressive Democrats of America. We love you to death. I want everybody on the call who have listened to Elizabeth and to go to her website, to donate, to sign up with Mike Fox on our phone team so that we can make calls. We only have 8 more days to get her over the top, and I'm sure she's going to really pull this off with your help. With your help. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
And then we're also going to have a virtual election night party. So I'll make sure you all have that link in case you want to pop in and celebrate with us. Win or lose, we've changed the landscape in this district. So we'd love you all to be there to celebrate those wins with us. But thank you all for your support. Nobody does this alone. So thank you.
So, hey, You can see I'm wearing the Elizabeth Lee
I,
t-shirt.
I see that.
Now you're going to go back to canvassing, correct? There you go. All right. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys.
It's yours, Alan. I
Well,
think.
for me, I toss over to Mike Fox. And when we come back, we are going to talk to our next congressional candidate, who is one of our endorsed candidates in the state of Michigan. And that is climate activist Will Lawrence, who co-founded the Sunrise Movement. So obviously, guy's very forward-thinking, trailblazed in important ways already. And now he's running for Congress in Michigan's 8th district. So we're going to learn about the excellent 8th up in Michigan and about William Lawrence's candidacy. And I do want to say that last week I misspoke. The Senate candidate in Michigan is going to be our featured guest in 2 weeks' time. And that's going to be a very special town hall when we're also going to be joined, it looks like, by Ben Cohen and Nina Turner. So it's going to have 3 big named progressives. It's going to have Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, who is currently ahead in the polls in Michigan for the U.S. Senate seat, PDA endorsed candidate, and Ben Cohen, who founded Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream, and Nina Turner, former co-chair of the Bernie Sanders for President campaign and state senator in Ohio. So we'll be back with William Lawrence in a few minutes, but first our PDA to-dos is I go get my charger for my laptop so I don't sign off unintentionally. Mike, take it away.
All right. Number 1, 2 things quick. Number 1, is she a rock star or what? Let's revel in what we just heard. And then number 2, how tight is William Lawrence's crew? They said he'd be here at 5 o'clock. Bang, gets here a couple of minutes before, and he's got a hard stop at the bottom of the hour, and he's moving on to the next project. So incredibly productive campaign. Y'all rock there. And let's quickly go through my favorite thing of the week, and that is thank yous. Thank you to all the folks who have donated so far during this program. I want to thank Peggy and Cheryl, Michael, phone banker Michael, double doing, Anthony, Michael out in Virginia, and Jeannie. Thank you so much, Jeannie, once again for your largest donation of the day, $250. Gang, if anybody can show solidarity with Jeannie and match that, that would be a beautiful thing. If you can't, no worries. Just do what you can. But I will put this goal on us. At minimum, we need to match as a group Jeannie's kind donation. Let's show solidarity with her. And Debbie, thank you. And phone banker Mary Ellen, double doing. Phone banker Newland, double doing. Phone banker Michael, phone banker Mary, double doing. And George, Francesca, phone banker Pamela, Beth, Mary again, phone banker double doing. Michael double doing. Dr. Bell's in the house. Good to see you, Dr. Bell. And Sharon, phone banker Erica double doing. Bob, our chair out in Missouri. Thank you, brother. And Dorothy, thank you for your kind $100 as always. And Judith, Neil, Francis, Dr. Sonnenborn, double doing as always. Mary Ellen again in there. She's making calls. She's donating twice. She's on fire. Thank you so much, sister. Same to be said for Peggy and Erica. And Beth, Lisa, phone banker Beverly, double doing. William, there's Mary again. And then finally, Michael, who starts us off every week like clockwork out of Chicago with a more than kind $5. Thank you, brother. All right. Many thanks to all those who have donated. We're still way short on total volunteer shifts. I won't go through that list just to save time right now because we got a candidate waiting. We will dive headlong into all of this during family time. So everybody stick around. That's where all the cool kids hang out. And that being said, back to you, Alan.
Thank you so much, Mike. And I'm a little worried that I misspoke, and we're going to get clarification from William Lawrence as to the number of the district that he's running in. 7th or 8th district with the redistricting that has taken place. I'm a little confused as I was doing a little research on your campaign. Just the number of the districts. So we should start out with that remedial information. Mr. Lawrence is joining us, as I'm sure you can see, and I will put my a video on, I was kneeling down to put my charger in. Now I will sit here and look more professional in front of the camera. William Lawrence, one of the co-founders of the Great Sunrise Movement, one of the most significant and important uh, organizations in the country addressing the climate emergency. I believe in its conception, a youth-led movement, and remains true to this day. Very important ally of PDA across the country. And William Lawrence is running for Congress, and I think somebody who had the foresight to found such an essential organization as Sunrise, my opinion, right there. Assuming, well, maybe I shouldn't assume, but I will learn and get confirmed as I have, the kind of policies the person who would co-found the Sunrise Movement would have. Damn it, they belong in the U.S. Congress, is my opinion. So, William Lawrence, tell us about your district, its location, the battle lines politically within the district, and why you're running for the U.S. Congress.
Thank you, Alan. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you to PDA. I'm William Lawrence. I'm running for U.S. Congress in Michigan's 7th district. It overlaps with a good part of the old 8th district, so you weren't crazy about that, but it's the 7th district now. And it's in what we call mid-Michigan, which is between Grand Rapids and Detroit. If you're driving along I-96, it includes the greater Lansing region is really the heart of the district. Lansing is where I live. East Lansing is where I was raised. And this district includes all of, if you know Michigan, it's all of Ingham County, most of Eaton County, Clinton County, Shiawassee County, up between Lansing and Flint, Livingston County, which is Howell and Brighton along the way towards Detroit, and then just a little bit of Oakland County, South Lyon, and Milford Township. So it's a big district. We got a lot of different kinds of communities, suburban, rural, urban community, big city, small town. And it's a swing district, one of the most hotly contested and competitive swing districts this election cycle. It could be the deciding vote to take the speaker's gavel away from Mike Johnson next January. So it's a district we've got to win. And I'm working to prove that progressive Democrats can win in these swing districts, because we know that as many amazing victories as we get in New York and New Jersey and in Denver, and we are having amazing victories in all those places, we also need to be able to show that we can win in the so-called frontline districts. Because until we do, we're going to continue to hear what I heard when I was at Sunrise working on Capitol Hill for the Green New Deal and then the Build Back Better agenda, which is I heard corporate lobbyists and their bought out politicians saying, you know, we can't extend the child tax credit. We can't do Medicare for all. We can't do $100 billion for green housing. We can't do so many other things we need to address the social and economic crisis and the climate crisis, because, you know, people in Michigan's 7th district will never go for it. And then they basically say, you know, what people in Michigan's 7th district and other swing districts like it, what they really want is they want more of the same. They want more of the same. So we have to moderate and we have to promise absolutely nothing at all. We should run Democrats who sound like Republicans. And what they're promising is more wars around the world, more billionaire tax breaks, and everything else to stay the same. And if we do that, then that's the path for the Democratic Party to win back the majority. That is a lie. That's a self-serving lie that only serves those corporations and their political cronies. But we have to prove it's a lie by winning in districts like this. So that's why I got into this campaign when I saw the race shaping up and I saw that there was an opportunity here. And our incumbent representative, Tom Barrett, is tremendously unpopular. He's so unpopular. He's in his first term. People call him one-term Tom because that's all he's going to get. And he's done a total disappearing act since he got elected to office. He really has not shown up in the community. He has not delivered good constituent services. You know, really what he does is, you know, he voted to kick 500,000 children in Michigan off of food stamps during the government shutdown. And I pulled up in front of his office and I had a 30-hour overnight food drive. We raised enough food and dollars to feed 5,000 people through the Greater Lansing Food Bank. When he voted to undermine the Affordable Care Act and cause all of our health care premiums to rise, especially those, you know, who are maybe between 50 and 65 who are getting those expanded premium subsidies. He voted to destroy the Affordable Care Act. I went out in front of his office and I raised enough money to cancel $130,000 worth of medical debt in the state of Michigan. And then because he still hasn't answered the call and done a public town hall or a single unscripted public event, I pulled up a desk in front of his office a few weeks ago and we held a Ask Me Anything public town hall event where close to 100 people from 5 to 85 years old came out and talked about policy, talked about the issues. We had some great conversations because people are really hungry for real representation. They're tired of candidates, whether with a D or an R after their name, that are bought and paid for by Silicon Valley and Wall Street and the war industry, and only show up on your television in paid ads when it's time for election day, and you can never ever reach them in your office. So I'm working to be a different kind of representative, and we've got an amazing campaign rolling. We've got over 1,000 volunteers on the ground, many more volunteers who are helping out on the phones around the country, and we are now up in the polls. I'm up in the polls in the primary over 2 corporate funded centrist Democrats who actually have never even lived in my district before. They never lived here. They both moved here for the sake of running. One of them actually still doesn't live in the district to this day. And they're trying to buy this election because they fit the description of what the people in DC want. So I'm working to send a representative mid-Michigan to DC rather than another representative DC to tell us what we want in Lansing. So that's where we are. I'm really thrilled to have the support of the PDA and all of your members. And I'll tell you what we need now. If you're in the district, we need doors. Come out and knock on some doors. If you're online and around the country, we need dollars and we need dials. So if you can make a donation, that's amazing. That's going to help us win. And if you can make some dials on the phone bank, that is also going to help us win. Because just this Friday, a dark money super PAC decided to buy $500,000 in TV ads, making ridiculous claims and smears against me, including the fact that I'm basically a big money Wall Street sellout because guess what? I have $11,000 in a 401k in an index fund. And I'm not sure that's going to be enough to retire, but for them, that's enough for me to be a big money sellout. And they spent actually 48 times more spreading the lie than I even have in the 401k. So that's where we are in this race. So we're working hard to win on August 4th, and your support now, right now, is incredibly important because we have vote by mail here in Michigan. And what that means is that people are already voting every day. And someone has voted every day that has not gotten a call from my campaign. So that's a problem, and you can help fix it. So let me stop there. I'm happy to take some questions. I don't know quite how we do the format, but that's just a little intro.
Yeah.
And, go ahead, Alan.
Well, a few things actually. Note to staff: we got Ballotpedia is such an erratic website, but on the page for your primary, they actually have a list of endorsements, which is not common on most Ballotpedia pages per the primaries. But we're not listed, so we got to make sure we're listed there and get another check in the box for William Lawrence, who's endorsed by Bernie Sanders. And most of the organizations that are endorsing that are listed and the people listed are endorsing William Lawrence. Now, do you sense that the dark money that came in was supporting either of your opponents? Was it supporting Brink or was it supporting the other chap, Mazdam? Or is it both against you because you're the front runner?
A little hard to say because it is dark money, but it does appear that Matt has significantly more super PAC backing than Bridget does.
Right.
Bridget has a lot of money in her candidate committee, and she sure has taken her share of money from Wall Street partners and Silicon Valley, people and all that kind of thing. But Matt has a network of super PACs that have been spending to support him, to attack Bridget, and we suspect that that is also related to the money that's coming in to attack me.
And how do the polls look? They have a little link for the polls, but it didn't go through, at least from mine.
There haven't been any, so it's been a minute since we've seen any new polls. There have been 3 polls released on the race, the 1 internal poll from each campaign, and 2 out of the 3 have me in the lead. Bridget's poll had her in the lead, but it looked a little bit like an outlier, maybe like they cooked it a little bit. But,
Sure.
But either way, what it shows is that I'm in strong position. We know the two of them have been competing for the same lane and doing a lot of beating each other up. I've got the progressive lane, clear and to myself. And we're expecting a close race where there will be three candidates all over 20%. And it'll be a question of, who gets closest to 40% in the three-way race. And we haven't seen any new polling in the last 8 weeks, even though we know there have been polls in the field, which is a good sign for me, because if the opponents, if they had good polling, we would have seen it because they would release it publicly. We did do a general election poll that we released last week that showed that I match up favorably head to head against the incumbent Tom Barrett compared to my two Democratic colleagues.
I just have a couple follow-up questions just to get a even stronger sense of the district. The district is still Michigan industrial production, small manufacturing shops. That's sort of my sense that there might be a lot of those, at least there were decades ago, or is it more agricultural in the expanse of the district?
Yes, it is both of that. I mean, so we
Okay.
have two GM plants in Lansing that are still operating. We have, a lot of feeder plants in and around the Lansing area and some in Livingston County. There is a lot of agriculture. There's also state government. There's also the university, which is a big employer.
And Michigan State is in the district.
Yeah, Michigan State is in East Lansing, which is right in the heart of the district, and then the state capital is next door in Lansing. So those are both major employers. And then there's actually the insurance industry has a little hub in Lansing, so that's a big employer. We've got a few different insurance firms. And then, there's finance and real estate in parts of the district. There's small businesses throughout, but it's an economically diverse district, manufacturing, agriculture, but of course also services and care work and hospitals, which are, such a big part of our economy these days.
Well, I was curious to focus on those questions because on both fronts, corporate ag and manufacturing in general, workers there's been a steady drumbeat of right-wing propaganda against the environmental movement in terms of particularly people who work in industries like manufacturing, which I think is very, very wrong-headed. But I'm wondering if you're hearing that, and how do you push back against it if you hear it?
Well, I'm proud to have helped pass the Inflation Reduction Act at Sunrise Boom, which is the largest investment in green jobs and manufacturing in U.S. history, and that's delivered over $3 billion to this district alone. Now, some of that Trump has managed to claw back.
Right.
And for instance, at the Grand River Assembly, where there was to be $500 million invested to upgrade production, make it more sustainable, and also deliver more job security for the workers there. Trump then came in and his Department of Energy canceled it while Tom Barrett stood by. So I'm very happy to run on my record on that issue and others in this district. And, when we talk about the jobs versus environment thing, I always love it really doesn't take a lot to get people motivated around the question of Michigan's water, because we're the Great Lakes state. We have 20% of the world's fresh water surrounding our state. We've got so many lovely rivers and wetlands in Michigan, and people of all political persuasions understand that our water is to be cherished and protected, and we have to leave it better than we found it. So that's where I like to focus. And then in talking about climate and energy policy, we also talk about the fact that solar energy is now the most affordable, cheapest energy available. And with this war in Iran, the price shocks that have happened, the increasing costs, it's become really outrageous, and people are completely dependent on also the utility companies that are monopolies. And so we need to be unlocking the opportunity for community solar, and then to have net metering in our grid so that everybody can be putting solar on their roof or in their backyard, or small businesses can be putting it on their rooftops or in their parking lots to increase our energy security while also cutting pollution.
Brink, by the way, is that her name? She's a foreign policy expert, right? So is she? I'll let that slide because it's strange to see a foreign policy expert be running in the middle of America in a swing district, and you are obviously somebody who is going to really have your finger on the pulse of what people really need to understand about the redevelopment of the American economy. I mean, the domestic economy, and I trust, and this is my final question. We'll go to the stack of questions. You're going to motivate a lot of our people to get on the phone and support you, to do phone banking, to call up their friends in Central Michigan, get out and knock doors for you. How much of a climate champion are you going to be with your background, with your CV, Sunrise co-founder, when you are sworn in to the U.S. Congress?
Well, it'll be a huge priority. And again, I'm especially focused on things like community solar and net metering so that we can do the renewable energy build out in a way which is actually distributing ownership to more people. Because I think what we've seen in Michigan is that when you do climate policy, which is written for the benefit of the monopoly utility companies, it's going to encounter backlash. We are encountering a lot of backlash to utility scale wind and solar in the rural areas of my district and across Michigan because the state passed a bill that was designed to make it easier for the utilities to build renewable energy and actually, taking away some of the local community opportunities for comment and things of that nature. But people don't trust that it's going to be in their own interests. So we have work to do politically to help people understand that they can also own a piece of the clean energy economy. And that's the angle that I'm most excited to tackle as part of the broader climate question.
Oh, it sounds like a great approach for somebody with obviously very deep Michigan roots, and also someone who went to Swarthmore, which meant you worked really hard for 4 years as an undergraduate. So
I worked hard too. Yeah, it was a challenging place. I
that's a
wanted to
challenging
challenge
place, yeah. But okay, so we're going to go to Stack, and just to let you know, too, PDA was an organization that worked with Representative Blumenauer to write the Climate Emergency Act, which wasn't reintroduced by a new congressperson. So we'll be talking to you about that as we go forward. So Carly, what is your question for William Lawrence running for U.S. Congress in Michigan's 7th District? Carly, please unmute.
I'm actually actually going to be changing the subject with this question.
Sure.
I want to address the elephant in the room known as Graham Plattner and what's going on in Maine.
Can we stick with our candidate that's here, please?
Well, allow Carly to finish her thoughts, and then William will decide. But I sort of agree a little bit with Mike too. Go ahead, Carly, please.
All right. If the climate emergency is important to you, do you have any ideas on food waste redirection and reduction in your state? Because that is part of the problem, because all that wasted food waste resources and all those greenhouse gases from the food rot is just going to accelerate climate change. Composting is one thing, but do you have any other ideas on what to do?
Mr. Lawrence.
That's a good question, and maybe you have some ideas, but I was going to go to, I've got a good friend who works for the Michigan Recycling Coalition and then another who has a East Side Compost in the city of Lansing. So definitely more support for those kinds of programs that are redirecting food waste, both at the, from the household to the commercial to the industrial level is where I would start. Perhaps you have more ideas about policy that would address that, and I'm interested to hear it. So put it in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please put that in the chat because she moved off the top of the stack. Mark Harrison, please unmute. And your question or comment for William Lawrence.
Hey, Mark. Wait a minute, I'm trying to unmute. Get a phone.
Oh, we can hear you. We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. William, you mentioned the fact of Silicon Valley involved in the campaign, and I just wanted to ask Alan to address. Doesn't Ro Khanna represent Silicon Valley? That's just a kind of joke in some ways. But I wanted to ask you, how are you going to talk about ICE in the district that you're running in?
Great question.
And then I'm finding that it's easier to say abolish ICE than abolish the police. So how do you see those two working together?
Yeah, just to address.
That's an interesting question.
Thank you. Yeah, to address the question about Ro Khanna, I'll note that he's endorsed me, and he does represent a large portion of Silicon Valley. But he came out, and when he was in Michigan to campaign for Abdul, he made a trip to do some work with me too, and we held a meeting with community members in Lyon Township impacted by proposed data center development, which has become a major issue in the race that I hadn't mentioned yet. But I'm in favor of a data center moratorium. Roe isn't quite in favor of an immediate moratorium, but he heard from the residents in Lyon Township the way that they were being, basically manipulated and taken advantage of and walked over by these big developers. And he said, this is not the way. This cannot be the way. There may be a right way to do this, but this is the wrong way. So I was glad to get to expose him to that and widen his perspective on that issue. Let's see what else. Okay, so then on the question of ICE, I don't want ICE in my town. I don't want it in my neighbor's town. I don't want it in anybody's town the way it's operating now. It's a rogue agency that is operating without any respect for the rule of law. And we've taken immigration law, which is meant to be a matter of civil procedure and is required by the Constitution, like all of our law enforcement, to follow due process. Now it's utterly in violation of the First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, and many other aspects of our Constitution. So we have got to we've got to take away the $75 billion that was given by the big, beautiful bill. We've got to increase the caseload or the number of justices and judges that exist in the immigration court so that we can shorten the backlog and actually move people through the process, because it doesn't help anybody. It's totally disrespectful and degrading to immigrants and their families when they're having to wait for years in many cases in limbo to just even get a hearing. It just isn't right. And then we need to hold accountable fully from top to bottom the people in the administration that have been responsible for this, the unconstitutional conduct that ICE has been pushing forward around the country. So we have to completely reform and overhaul the way that we do immigration law. What the end thing ends up being called, I'm not particularly attached to it being ICE or not ICE in terms of what we call it. But what I will note is that ICE, as we know it, was also founded in 2002 in the lead up of the war on terror. And now we see that it really is operating as the domestic branch of the war on terror, because when they kill people on the streets of American cities, the first thing they say is this person was a domestic terrorist. And that's because they've placed that person outside of the rule of law. And if you call someone a terrorist, it means that there can be no accountability for having killed them. That's what our government holds. So that is absolutely abhorrent and unconscionable, and that has to be stopped.
Thank you. Murray Smart, you're up next. Please unmute, Murray.
All right, thanks very much. Two quick questions, big topics. One is Republicans across the country now are openly going after Social Security and saying they want to defund it or reduce it or eliminate it. And the Trump regime just basically destroyed the habitat for creatures in this country with the Endangered Species Act. How do you stand on those two issues?
On Social Security, I believe we have to eliminate the cap on taxable income to keep Social Security solvent for generations to come. That looks to me like the easiest fix, and it's one of the most tangible examples of how we can tax the rich in a very easy way through the existing tax code and result in, protect what's been a pillar of our social safety net. And then the other point was about, the Endangered Species Act. So, I was a climate organizer, and I still am, but I was, very intensely focused on climate for a dozen years. And, and so I've been an environmentalist for all my life. And I've been reflecting lately on how in the move to focus on carbon, which has been necessary and remains necessary, we have lacked some attention to the question of biodiversity and the crisis of diminishing habitat and wildlands. And it's something that I find myself grieving, actually. Maybe it's something about getting older, but my wife went out camping and she heard an owl, and I said, boy, I'm glad that there's an owl still left. And the real fact of how much we are losing will take hundreds of thousands of years to restore is grieving me. And so I want that to be a priority. Biodiversity and wildlands, habitat, and along with that, protecting Michigan's water, wetlands, and rivers, and actually restoring them, leaving them better than we found them, is something that just on a personal level, I'm very moved by right now.
We're going to cap the stack right now. So I saw Mike Dollar had his hand up, but it came down. So it's just John, Nicole, Michelle, and Richard in reverse order, plus Mike Dollar if he wants to jump on. And that's it for our stack. It's closed now. Richard Grimm, please unmute.
What do you Trump is trying to put people with disabilities back in institutions again? What do you think about that?
I don't think that's right. I think we should be supporting home health care workers and family care providers to be adequately compensated to do the essential work that they're doing to care for people with disabilities.
Michelle, please unmute.
Yes, I very much like to ask some more about the environmental and climate things. Just like in your area, we have problems with the utilities having so much power that it's harder to get laws to have the individual people be able to, like you say, net metering and having the rooftop solar and so on. Instead, they want to destroy some more wildlands and put up a big solar thing there that the utility can make power off. And here, they even have made it harder for people to get net metering, and they've also made it so that it can take a year or more to get hooked up to the electrical grid. If you are on solar, they do everything to punish what we should be actually doing more of. And so I'm wondering how you feel you can address issues like that in Congress to make things different for the whole country.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Michelle. I'll just reiterate that I think that the question of ownership is at the center of where we take the energy transition moving forward. And I think unlocking net metering and empowering community solar are critical parts of that. And I believe that that is the necessary step to not just continue the energy transition, but to build ongoing political buy-in from people across the political spectrum and among the working class and middle class to continue that work.
Nicole, please unmute. Nicole, please unmute.
Hi. I would like to ask you, will you sign the peace pledge that Ro Khanna was the first one to sign? And will you make the U.S.-Israel integration bill between our two armies a prominent part of your campaign, as it is considered by both the right and the left to be a treasonous bill that is unconstitutional?
I'm very concerned about that bill and as it moves through the NDAA right now. So yes, I'm strongly opposed to it, and I'll be a co-sponsor on the Block the Bombs Act to cease any further arms transfers to Israel until its human rights record is put in place and the genocide is ended and the apartheid in the West Bank is ended. I'm not familiar with the peace pledge that you mentioned, so I'm not going to comment affirmatively on that at this time, but it sounds like something that I ought to look into.
John Hayes, please unmute.
Hi. Do you have an opinion about the amount of meat that people consume, which causes climate change in a very significant manner? I happen to be vegan, and people love to make jokes about vegans, which I find pretty offensive. I think their excuses are not very good for that. But if people would just reduce their intake of meat and dairy products, make a big difference for the climate and certainly for the animals. They're treated incredibly horribly. What do you think about any of that?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for your work on that issue. I was a vegetarian for much of my life. Frankly, it's not something I'm focused on in this campaign, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Well, thank you so much. Now, let me get my video back on here. And Mike Thaler, again, on our staff, had a question, or he had his hand up. And Mike, if you do have a question for William,
okay, and then I've got to go. I got to go right after this.
And in fact, I was actually trying to give the thumbs up to William when he mentioned, I'm chair of the senior caucus of the California Democratic Party, when he mentioned taking the cap off of Social Security. But instead of hitting the thumbs up, I accidentally raised my hand. So Thank you.
I have one final question for William. You're running in a primary, competitive primary, and if you win the primary, you're running in a very important swing district per the balance of the House in November. Right now, we have in the press and a great awareness of a divide between the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and the more centrist pro-business wing of the Democratic Party. How do you feel in your district, the progressive policy platforms supported by Bernie Sanders, yourself, Ro Khanna, et cetera, resonate with the general population and then among Democratic voters more than the centrist positions do?
Sure. I mean, I'm convinced that a progressive populist position is better equipped to flip this district than a do-nothing, moderate kind of position. In particular, data centers I mentioned, these moderate Democrats are totally bought by Silicon Valley, and they're supporting data centers. Gretchen Whitmer and Donald Trump are united in rolling out the red carpet for data centers in Michigan, but the people don't like it. Saying no to war is a popular issue. Republicans, a lot of them believe Trump when he said that he wasn't going to start any more wars, and now they are getting wise to the fact that that was never the case. And then prosecuting the Epstein class is the other issue that is really uniting people across the aisle here, because Trump said he was going to drain the swamp. Now people are realizing he's one of the biggest swamp creatures of all. So we've got to be able to tackle that aggressively. But we can only do that if we're running unbought, independent-minded progressive candidates who are not, part of the DC inside establishment that has been responsible for just walking all over the rule of law and acting with complete impunity.
It sounds like a party is following you around. I want that also to be the Democratic Party following you around, brother.
Yeah, we've got another event started here, so I appreciate you for taking the time.
Okay, and I look forward to seeing you in January in Congress, and we're going to pull everything we can to support you to win the primary, win the general election. William Lawrence for Congress, thank you so much in Michigan's 7th District.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers. Bye-bye. And everybody, we're at the end of the town hall here, but Donna Smith came popping in here. Hello, Donna Smith.
I'm very late. I'm very sorry. I was at the Denver Democrats picnic while it was 98 degrees out.
Woo! Well, you look very summery in your dress, which is nice.
Well, now I am. I didn't look so summery a few minutes ago. I looked very hot.
You sent a beautiful picture, actually, and thank you for that.
Thank you. I did talk to many people. It was wonderful to talk to some of the candidates who won in the primaries. That was very good. Clearly, the Denver party is still trying to mend some things and giving off that message very strongly and very concisely.
Good.
And
that's very good.
It was very good. And we actually had nice food, and people brought cookies and all that kind of old-fashioned stuff. So it was good. And I got to see one state rep that we here at PDA Colorado had endorsed, who won his primary, who used to stand in my kitchen when he was a young man and a friend of my son's. So it's kind of cool to see those things happening in these elections. His name is Scott Balderman, and he won his primary. He was the only one on the ticket, and that will be the general election. And then I got to see the woman who will be my state rep, Iris Halprin, who I was really thrilled to see. She hugged me so hard she almost knocked me over. I'm not as strong as I used to be, but she's such a great. She's going to be really good. She's a civil rights attorney, and she's going to be really good. And then I got to speak one-on-one with our CD1 primary winner, Milak Kiros. And I got to talk to her just briefly about being my rep. I really didn't talk to her as PDA National Advisory Board Chair. I was talking to her as a future constituent of hers and thanking her for not running a dirty campaign. I really meant that. We had a lot of really vicious, ugly stuff going on in Colorado, and that race really wasn't. And that was good that it wasn't. There was plenty of dark money, but even the dark money was more pleasant than some of the other stuff we had. So, I think there's still work to do. I think there's still educating to do. Our gubernatorial candidate, Phil Weiser, was not there today, but sent representatives. I think he's going to be a good, wise counsel to some of the younger candidates about Not about their positions, because their positions are wonderful on so many things, but perhaps on navigating the political waters a little more smoothly. Maybe we'll see. We'll see.
How's our friend? How's our friend Jenna doing? Jenna Griswold.
She's doing okay. She's got kind of a icky campaign against her going on by our biggest local media outlet, or at least television. I don't know that will matter. I think she'll still carry the day, but I think for some reason she and the main commentator rubbed each other the wrong way. But he made a big error. His name is Kyle Clark. He's on 9 News, and he does a show called Next that's watched by a lot of people in Denver. And in the race, the U.S. Senate race, Hickenlooper against Julie Gonzalez, he failed to really even talk about the race because he wrote it off on the early polls that, said Hickenlooper was going to walk away with it. Well, Hickenlooper kind of did, but one kind of followed the other. There was very little media attention given to that race at all, or about the progressive political insurgency in all of these big races. So he did come on. Kyle Clark did come on the air last week and say that he blew it, that he should have given that race more attention. It doesn't do us much good now, but But anyway, it's a wild time in our politics. I was glad this first time I ever went to my Denver County picnic. There were a few people who wouldn't speak to me. Imagine that. I'm always nice.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go to a picnic with the high school Democrats group next Saturday.
Nice. Nice. I'm going to my House district next Sunday. Maybe. I'll tell everybody on this call, some people know, I'm having my left shoulder replaced this week.
Oh my.
So I only will have a few major joints that have not been replaced after this. One would think I'd be the bionic woman.
Yeah. Well, there's been inflation, so you'd have to be like the $60 million woman, not the $6 million.
Except I didn't get the superpowers, Alan. What the heck?
We can find some sort of peach colored polyester power suits for you, like Steve Austin.
I don't think anybody wants to see that. No.
Look, when we go to the family time, I'll call you if you're free. I got a few things to catch up with you about, but I want to let everybody know that on this Thursday, and everybody, I'm very happy about this. I was reached directly. Anna Lilia Mejia contacted me directly, and I'll be emceeing another fundraiser for Anna Lilia here in right at the end of Sunset Strip, right in between West Hollywood and Beverly Hills, right there on Thursday, early evening, late afternoon. No soccer game on Thursday. And there is a soccer game next Sunday, but there will be a town hall. And I want to just go out. We're talking about the event I went to yesterday. And you'll see a video that I recorded with Maxwell Frost next Sunday. And it was a fundraiser both for Maxwell Frost's campaign, which is, of course, he doesn't have an opponent in the general election. I don't think he has an opponent in the primary. So he's going to be back in Congress. But he is raising money for what they call a table, and he's in Democratic leadership for the reelection of the Democrats in the House. And he is going to be working, I think, we will undoubtedly be working closely with him as we get the message out to progressives that we have fought hard in these primaries, folks. We have fought hard, and we fight hard for what we believe, and what we believe is the progressive agenda is the right agenda for America. But when it comes to November, folks, we are facing fascists, and we cannot make the same mistake the Germans made in 1933.
Oh, 100%, Alan. Let me weigh in on that. I forgot to say that. There is one clear thing that has to happen in November. We must take back the Congress. We must take back the United House of Representatives. I'm not thrilled with every candidate across the board either. I don't like every one of them on their policy positions. But if we don't take back the United States Congress, we're in really bad trouble. Anyway, go ahead, Alan.
No, and we're going to go to Jim in a second, but I just want to finish now. Mike Levin, the congressperson from Orange County, was unable to attend, but he was on the committee for this event with Maxwell Frost and the other featured candidate, who's a candidate, not a congressperson, Randy Villegas. So it was a fundraiser for Randy and a fundraiser for Max, and Max to build up his team So to assure that we get massive turnout and we win on November 3rd across the country. And Randy to win in the 22nd District of California. He's a great guy. Going to be doing work with him and media over the next week as well. Both he and I are going to get interviewed in a particular, a journalistic documentary that's being made over the next week to 10 days. And then Ted Lieu was there and he spoke. It's great to see Ted. I know we have our differences with Ted on one or two issues, but he's otherwise an incredibly marvelous congressperson. And then the other person who was there was Sidney Comlinger Dove. So it was four congresspeople and one soon-to-be congressperson, because Randy's going to win in November, and knock out a Republican in a swing district. But this is a district that was drawn now, so it's majority Democrat. And Randy's amazing, and he's going to be great in Congress, great progressive. And it was just a fantastic event. And Donna Smith, one final thought for you. The host of it, big supporter of Jenna Griswold. And we talked a little bit about Jenna. So David's going to be after Jim, but Jim, your name came up a lot at that event yesterday, and people think the world of you. You have the floor.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly speak about what Maxwell is doing locally here in Orlando. He has brought on 86 what he's calling Democracy Summer interns, basically. He is, the last time I was at his office, I was actually invited to be his official notary for his reelection documentation. And so at some point in history, if people are looking through his documents, they're going to see my name and wonder who the hell I was. But while I was there, I was speaking with both his campaign manager and his field director, who are both very close personal friends to me. And they were telling me that they are in the process of trying to find a permanent office downtown Orlando to house all of these people he is hiring to flip seats in Florida permanently. He is not going to be ramping up for reelection all the time. He is an organizer at heart, and he is organizing a permanent office. He will have a permanent campaign office in Orlando, separate from his official office as a congressperson. It will be strictly for campaigns, and he's going to be coordinating as much as possible with local candidates throughout Central Florida to help flip districts, so we can also change the legislature, because we are in the super minority in the legislature. Not a single Democrat has to show up in the legislature for them to pass any legislation they want. And that has been a real problem. And we're working really, really hard. There's about 5 or 6 seats here in Central Florida that we possibly can flip. And that is one of the things that Maxwell has. And he is at the very bottom line, the most incredible team player. Everybody wants to be a part of this, and it's an actual movement. And so I can speak to that because I am part of it, and I'm there all the time. So
he's just such a great guy too, and so is Randy. But man, Max, certain people are, they're serious people when they, have a little bit of a shell around themselves, and but certainly to meet someone like Max and to be in the position he's in at this stage in his life, and to be just so affable and agreeable, fantastic guy, really great guy. Yeah, and again, thanks the world of you, Mr. Langford, which is appropriate, very, very well earned. And
thank you.
On point. So we have 2 more people on stack, then we're going to go to family time. So David, our sounding board, please unmute. David?
Okay. It's somewhat related. It's a bit of a segue, but it's coming up really soon. On the November ballot will be a Proposition 4. Proposition 4 is for public financing of all election campaigns that sign on at the city, county, state level. And we'll have more details later on, but it's really an important one, and hopefully will serve for a model for not only California, but for other regions. And so we'll have more about that next week. They're having the kickoff campaign in early August. And actually, it's going to be presented to the Democratic E-Board on the July 31st start meeting. Okay, thanks.
Thank you so much, David. And Nicole, you have the final word before we go to family time. Nicole.
Yes, regarding helping people getting elected, PDA candidates elected in Southern Florida, we have District 20 and 25. We need help to get a PDA candidate being elected. It's the votes is being divided by AIPAC, AIPAC supported Congresswoman who switched her district to run in a district that was usually reserved for minorities.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much. And with that, folks, I'm going to thank Dan O'Neill, Donna Smith, Mike Fox, Jim Langford, Susan Gilbert, Mike Thaler. And our featured guests today were Elizabeth Lee, running in Arizona's 5th District. William Walter, of course, gave the report on events in Wisconsin and co-hosted with Dan the segment with Elizabeth Lee. And then William Lawrence. And Elizabeth and William, both very impressive candidates. And, obviously very distinct people, different people, but both representing their people in really exemplary progressive ways. And we're lucky to be a part of a movement and really to be the organization that spearheaded and sparked this movement across the country for a politics that doesn't just serve financial service industries and the investor class, military industrial complex, the right hand of the state. It really serves the interests of people in our society. And onwards and upwards we go. And red cards for Donald Trump when he goes out to give the awards for the winners and the players of the tournament of the Men's World Cup tournament next Sunday. We'll have a town hall then, and Mike Fox is going to take it away with family time. See you next week. Mike, take it away.